Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Talk and Tour Career Series. I'm Krista Harmon with the Kent Intermediate School District's Career Readiness Department. And I'm so thrilled to partner once again with Orthopaedic Associates of Michigan, their surgery center, which is located in Midtown. And we're going to dig into a couple careers in the surgery center, which I know is a very big interest for young people. I want to welcome three people. Eric Beloy, he's a sterile processing technician. Andrew Seifert, who's an operating room RN, registered nurse, and Bridget Visser, who's a business office float. So we're gonna get some different angles of this particular specialty. We're so glad you guys are here tonight. Thank you. So we're gonna get started. A lot of young people like to know if you were thinking about, for example, Eric, being a sterile processing technician when you were back in high school. Did you even know that existed? Take us back to that time. What were you thinking about?
I had no clue that being a sterile processing technician existed at the time. I was an athlete, so I tell this story all the time. I thought I was going to the NFL. I thought I had a promising career playing on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays, but it didn't work out like that.
So you found a job. We're gonna dig a little more into that career path, how you did find it. But so yeah, in high school, you didn't even know it existed. Did you have an idea besides football? Obviously, you're pretty talented, so you're being encouraged along the way.
Yeah.
After high school, did you continue to play football?
I did a little bit. I went to GRCC and I played 2 years there, and then I became a young parent. So that's when I kind of shifted my focus into being a full-time employee.
Okay, well, we're going to look forward to hearing how you exactly found this particular career. Bridget, what were you thinking back in high school? Did you think you'd end up at a surgical center?
No, I didn't even know surgery centers existed, actually. In high school, I thought I was going to start early, and I got my CNA license to be a certified nurse's aide because I thought I would go into nursing. And I did that at 18 through college. And my first classes I took in college were to be a diagnostic sonographer to take ultrasounds. And then I job shadowed one, and I never saw one baby. So that job was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. But then I still kind of looked into nursing, and then I was in a 6 to 9 in like a general health class when someone pitched to me the health information management program at Grand Valley. And that's the path I took. I think it was my sophomore year I switched.
Yeah, I think health information is one that a lot of people don't know about. I'm really excited that you're going to talk about it because it's a pretty hot career, isn't it?
It is right now, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to make sure that not only the students know, but our educators know about it so they can share this good information. Andrew, were you thinking to be a nurse back in high school?
Not a chance. I didn't know anything hardly about nursing. I had no idea what surgery was, and I ended up in it, and I loved it. You know, I had quite a different comprehension of what nursing was as a 17 or 18-year-old. And then as soon as I was introduced to the operating room and some people that kind of guided me, it broke all bounds of what I originally thought it was, and I love it.
Well, that's great. We're going to start with you and kind of work our way back. So you're in high school. Did you like science and math? Were those classes that you were like, oh, this is cool, this works for me, I got to find something in this area?
Yeah, science and math have always been my favorite. It's great, you know, I like math because there's an equation. 1 + 1 = 2, and that's black and white. And a lot of nursing is very quantitative, so you're able to certain medications and you're able to use math, but it's not a 100% necessity. You don't have to have love math to do nursing, but science is a huge background. So, you know, English, not my forte. So.
Well, so I hear some personality traits though, that you liked math because it did have a sequential and logical thinking. And that's obviously very important in nursing, that there's procedural things. So obviously it fit you. What were those people, who were they, and what did they do to introduce you to nursing?
My aunt was a administrative assistant at the college that I actually attended to, and she had just found that there was a great success. And at that point in time, it was around 2008 is when I graduated, and we went through the recession. And at that point in time, it's like, I need a job. And there wasn't a lot of certainty in a lot of other fields of whether you were going to get a guaranteed job. And I knew healthcare, it was assured that you're going to get a job. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I liked it. But like I said, then I was introduced to a surgical technologist instructor who kind of was in the military. I thought I was going to go in the military, so we really kind of clicked. Yeah, so quite a few people influenced me into this career path.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna not only let you talk about the registered nurse side, but I definitely want to dig into that surgical tech. I know there's a huge need for them still. So thanks for sharing that. Eric, so you became a parent as a young man and you're like, I need a job too.
So,
Right? So tell us kind of what evolved for you and how you end up hearing about this particular career.
becoming a young parent.
Tell people what it is too. I just forgot to say.
Oh yeah, sterile processing is like, it's cleaning and sterilizing all the surgery instruments that will be used in every surgical case. I was a young parent, became a young parent, and I kind of worked odds and ends jobs. I used to work at Buffalo Wild Wings and I delivered furniture. And it kind of came to me by happenstance. A family friend of mine, like my godmother, so to say, worked and she was a processing tech. So at my son's first birthday party, we kind of talked about it and I used her for a reference and she ended up referring me to become a processing technician.
What was your understanding of what that was at the time?
It was more so of, so that it was inside of the hospital. So we had to like clean the pumps and go to the floors and get all the dirty equipment. And it was more than just cleaning the surgery stuff. So it was like more involved, and then I didn't even know that. So I was like, it's easy, you just clean equipment. But when I got to the job, it was way more than just cleaning equipment.
Yeah, we're gonna round back to get into a little more nitty gritties of each of your jobs. But I want young people to hear, it's not always a straight line, right? We don't have
Right.
one goal and it ends up that way. Bridget, give us a little more insights on that, how things transpired for you.
I really did like nursing, and kind of like Andrew, I did really like that math and science. And I still have that in my job that I'm in now. I'm really where I kind of like that I'm in healthcare, but I'm not in the hands-on. I don't have lives on my hands, but I do work hand in hand sometimes with clinical. You see a lot of clinical, you deal with it, but just not face-to-face. I'm kind of dealing with it on the back end. And I never thought that's where I'd be. I really shied away from nursing when I thought I didn't want to work weekends and holidays. But with that being said, I didn't know surgical centers existed where you could work a Monday through Friday nursing job. So that is good to know that those are out there. I didn't know that at the time. But I do like where I am ending up. I'm really seeing where this career is taking me. I'm still very new in it. I've been here for 3 years now, just a couple years out of college. So
Yeah, so let me break it down. Tell us what you do on it, what your job is and kind of what a sample day might be.
Yeah, so my job currently, I just took a new role here. Actually, I'm kind of in the claims denial processing section or department now. So basically any insurance company that does not want to pay for our surgeries, I am challenging that. So with this job specifically, it's really good if you want to fight for something, you want things to be right, you want it to be corrected, but you don't want to be, a lawyer, because I would never be able to do that in a courtroom, but I argue with insurance companies to get our claims paid correctly every single day, all day long. So it is really important. I mean, we do so many surgeries for so much money and half the time they don't get paid correctly. So that needs to be worked on the back end to make sure this healthcare is out here to help people, but healthcare is a business. So I am on the business side, the number side, and fighting for everything to keep us afloat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that you're on the panel tonight because I know someone else from your organization also went to school to be a nurse, couldn't get through organic chem. That's what kind of bumped her out of the running. And she ended up in health information systems too and absolutely loved it. But you mentioned something about lives not being on your hands. And I have met people who got pretty far along. And when this one person I met, she was in charge of plants. Over the weekend, she had to water plants for part of her research. And one Monday she came and they were all dead. And that's when she realized, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in charge of real people's lives. And so she switched her career, instead of medicine, went into the research side. So that's when those little personality traits or values or interests, like, you don't know sometimes, right, until you get closer to it.
And that's why doing like, if you can do shadows, or, I mean, my job or my college did an internship. I know in nursing you do clinical, so you kind of learn like what you're good at, where your strengths are, and what you want to shy away from. There's so many different jobs you can get just based on your career and your degree.
Yeah, that's great. And we are going to talk about education next. But Eric, let's talk about, again, a little more of what a typical day is for you. And I'm sure there's a lot of variety, but a lot of young people have no idea what a sterile processing technician is. So kind of take it from the top for us.
Well, when I say cleaning and sterilizing, so cleaning would be after the surgery, we get all the dirty stuff. It's similar to doing dirty dishes. So you would put all your stuff in clean dishwater to rinse away all the residue and things of that nature. The trays will go inside of a washer. After they come out of the washer, we reassemble those trays how they were before they got open. After the reassembly, we send it through the sterilizer. After an hour in the sterilizer of heat over 270 degrees, all those trays will come out and they'll be sterile, ready for surgeries. And then we'll like continue that process on and on and on all day. But also like bringing in vendor trays for surgeries going tomorrow and the next day and next week. So it's a constant process of receiving and sending out trays, sterile trays all day long.
Are they the same 4 or 5 type instruments that you're dealing with every day?
It's different. We do only orthopedics here, but we doing hips and knees and elbows and hands. So it's a variety of different trays. You just never know what you're going to get from day to day.
Yeah, and as part of this talking to her, even though it's virtual, everyone, they are going to be able to take us back into an operating room as part of our event tonight and maybe show us a tray, right, Eric? You're gonna
Yes,
maybe show us so we can get a sense of what he does. So that's so great. Andrew, I'd love for you to give us an overview of what you do as an operating nurse, but also give everyone on the call a chance to understand what a surgical tech is, because there's a difference in the level of training, and some might like that 2-year program versus a 4-year. We'll definitely get into that education. But what's a typical task?
So we'll start off with the registered nurse in the operating room, specifically that, because there's so many different types of nursing duties, but the operating room specifically. Start in the morning, we get my room ready. I clean my room. Even though it's every night they turn me to clean it, we're always cleaning the operating rooms. It's the cleanest and dirtiest place in the hospital. That's what they always say. I get everything from the instruments for the surgical technologists. We open up trays, I prepare the bed and maybe a X-ray machine. So then I'll go to the pre-operative area, I'll introduce myself, ask the patient a number of questions about health history, talk to them, get to know them. Then we'll transport them to the operating room. At that point in time, then the nurse anesthetist or anesthesiologist will sedate the patient under what's, for this conversation, would be a general anesthetic where they're 100% asleep. After the patient, the nurses do assist with that procedure. After that, we will prep the patient with a sterile solution, and then we will drape the patient with sterile drapes. And then from that point in time, the doctor will perform a surgery along with the surgical tech and the assistant. And the operating room nurse will assist them if they need any extra supplies. We perform surgical counts, so we make sure we don't leave any instruments, sponges, anything inside the body. We do a count before and after procedure. And then when the procedure is all over, we apply dressings to the wound. We transfer them to the stretcher, and then we send them to PACU, stands for post-anesthesia care unit, so the patient is able to wake up. So we will be included in that transfer. So you get all the aspects. You get the one-on-one with the patient, you get the surgery, and then you get the what we define as emergence, post-operative care in the PACU.
Yeah, and I think what's really neat about your story is that nursing is so wonderful. There's so many opportunities. And I think as young people start to hear conversations like this, they can start to self-evaluate, like, oh, so for you, you have one patient the entire time, right? You're focused on their needs, one and only. Whereas other nurses might have a whole series of people coming through all day long, and they're dealing with lots of patients at the same time, for example. So young people, as you start to hear the differences, start to think, oh, what would I like to do? And this is just a great example of one patient, your entire focus. All right, tell us about that surgical tech.
So surgical tech, so we'll lead off back to in the morning when it's opening up sterile supplies. So the surgical technologist will, they come in with their gowns and their wet hand, just like in whatever insert comedy medical show. They put on the gown and gloves, and those prepare to open up what we call packs, which have a number of basic instruments or basic supplies. Then we'll grab the trays that Eric provided, which I got to touch base on Eric, because sterile processing is such a huge part of the operating room, because they prepare the sterile instruments that are going to be used on somebody. So it's just like dirty dishes. If there's old food in the dirty dishes, it cannot happen. And Eric and our SPD department does an amazing job at that. And we all rely on each one, from the business office to sterile processing. It's a whole circle. You cannot have one group without the other. So back to the story. So we're grabbing trays, we're throwing them on the field. once the tech is feel like they have everything they need, that's when the operating room nurse goes and gets the patient. Once the patient's back on the field, the tech helps the doctor drape the patient and then assist with the procedure. So the doctors are always concentrating on these complex procedures, and their job is to concentrate on. The surgical tech is there to equip them with the tools that they ask for and anticipate all of their needs, from, to the scalpel, to clamping instruments, to drills, anything like that. So their job is to put out the hand and they give them the instrument. And the better the tech you are, the faster you become, the more confident and the smoother the surgery goes. So it's a great field. It's really fun. You cannot be any closer to the surgery than what a surgical tech does, because you are there.
And I think that probably breaks some myths for some young people that, in the movies, they think it's the nurse that's doing that. But you're saying it's a surgical tech. So let's help young people understand more about that. So a surgical tech is, I believe, a 2-year degree, is it?
Correct.
Not? And I believe locally, Muskegon Community College has that program, everyone. So 2-year program for surgical tech, and then give us some education about nursing. What are some of the nuts and bolts of that, Andrew?
So the interesting part is kind of, sometimes I feel like every time we do this, it's somewhat confusing, because what I did, I went through a 2-year ADN program, which is associates in nursing. Those tend to be becoming more rare because hospitals are requiring you to have your 4-year degree nursing program. But the 2-year ADN does have a state licensure for nursing. And then you have the ability to advance and get your bachelor's. But most universities and a lot of community colleges are really pushing the BSN, because the majority of hospitals are requiring that you have your BSN to be hired, or within a certain X amount of time advance and become your BSN. Just like a teacher, they're always continuing education, and it really is the best thing for the field to continue to study, and even in practice, because you're never not learning.
Right. And I know that GRCC here in Grand Rapids still has their LPN program. Is that different than an ADN?
When you say LPN?
LPN?
Yeah, so LPN is not, no, it is, there's certain abilities that they're able to practice that RN can and LPN cannot. But there is a need for LPNs as well. So
yeah, the person I was talking to today just got into after a couple year wait, got into the LPN program. But now that she's hired, the college will pay the rest of her schooling to become a BSN. So that's a great idea, everyone. When you're looking at college debt, get yourself in, even as a surgical tech, and then you can let the company pay for whatever else you need. So were you a surgical tech first, or did you go straight to nursing school?
I was going to nursing school, and then we had a 1-year wait list at the time. So during that time, I already had my associates in applied science. So the surgical tech program for my area was a 1-year program, 6 months of strictly classwork, and then 6 months of clinical experience, 1 day of class for that year. So as soon as I got done, I started to practice as a surgical technologist, and I was able to work during that time for my nursing degree. And then I also got the foot in the door that I wanted to be in the operating room, because at the time I didn't know that I could get into the operating room as an RN, because it is a competitive field, just like any field, but I got my foot in the door, and it was great because I was able to work.
That's the hot tip for tonight, everyone. Are you hearing that? He went for the surgical tech that gave him the foot in the door as an operating nurse. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to go straight for that 4-year or master's degree. You can level up or be earning income along the way. And again, let the hospital pay for that. That's so great to hear. Eric, what would be the training if someone thought, I'm really meticulous. I like to keep things clean. I'd like to be part of a team in this way. What would be their next steps to get into it as far as training? What do you need to do?
So when I first started, it was more of you get trained on the job, but now they actually have schooling to go to for sterile processing. I know Baker had a program that they offered for sterile processing, but so kind of how I came in, I kind of got in on the ground floor and just worked my way up. Like Bridget was saying, I worked at the hospital first, worked weekends and holidays and all different shifts. And as I graduated, I learned and met more and different people that told me about a surgery center that works no weekends and no holidays. So I figured like, hey, that's the place to be. So I kind of shot my shot here. And once I came, I kind of never left. But yes, it is some schooling involved if you wanted to. Like Andrew was saying right now, I just accepted our team lead, a new team lead position for our department, and they would expect me to be certified in my department within a year. So it's things like that that you could do as well. Like you may be able to work and then get certified on the job. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's great. I think the only requirement that I know of is you have to be 18 to get
Yep.
into it. And now, does OAM require that certification, or will they do some on the job?
No, they don't require it, but they would ask that you get it within a year when you get here. Yeah.
So it's not a prerequisite for employment.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good for everyone to know. And then Bridget, you mentioned your degree in health information systems. Was that HIS?
My minor is health information system. The major is health information management.
Okay, and so tell us about that and what kind of requirements are needed for that program? Is it super competitive?
That's another reason why I went into it. I was a little intimidated by the nursing program. I had heard from somebody that I just tried to get into it and did not. And then you have to wait, I think it's a certain amount of time before you can reapply. And I was on the mindset, I want to be done with college in 4 years and 4 years only. So I chose this major, I think it was my sophomore year. The professor to the program came into one of our classes and pitched it. And she kind of pitched that there's so many job options with this degree. Health information management is pretty broad. And she just kind of gave all the options. I really liked the hours that were offered. The biggest thing that you can do with this degree is you can work from home. A lot of people go into medical coding with this. After you finish the program, it's a 4-year degree, so I have my bachelor's. And I did that by doing 4 years at Grand Valley, but since I chose it kind of late, I did 2 summers full time to quick get that done in 4 years, which you don't have to do. But once you get the degree, you take a test and get your registered health information administrator, your RHIA, and then you can also go on and take more tests and get more certifications. And then with that, they just call that your golden ticket, and you can go on to, if you want to get into the management of things, you can manage, small departments in hospitals, maybe offices. Like I said, a lot of people go into coding. I just recently took an additional class after school to refresh, like it's a prep course to get a CPC or certified professional coders. And I took a prep course to refresh myself on that. I'm hoping to get that this year. So there's a lot of continued education after your bachelor's. I know Grand Valley just started a master's program on this degree, and I believe Davenport has the program as well.
That's what I was just going to say. I knew Grand Valley did, but I wasn't sure if anyone else did.
I don't know. I know Davenport either has it or one very similar to it.
Sure. At this point, everyone who's part of this Zoom today, I don't spend a lot of time on their wages, even more about the schooling. That's something you can find through the internet. I'll give you a resource at the end. I want to get into a few more personal stories, and then we're going to get a tour. So back to you, Andrew. What is your favorite part of your job, and what's the part you just wish it wasn't there?
Myself. My favorite part of the job is just the surgeries. You kind of become to know the ins and outs of the surgery, and that can be very difficult and daunting when you first get involved, because you just kind of have no idea what's going on. You're watching the surgery and you know the anatomy, and then they're just working in this little area, but then you start to really truly understand what's happening. How is it affecting the patient? The mechanics of what's example like an ACL, like how does an ACL injury occur? Why do they do it this way? Why do they do it not that way? And then to be able to anticipate and to be able to help the doctor even make and potentially even offer solutions, kind of that really critical judgment, critical thinking skill that you have to have in the operating room. That's definitely my most favorite part, is the just knowing everything about the anatomy. I mean, anatomy of a textbook doesn't do any justice of what, the anatomy that we see. And if you enter into the medical field, the anatomy that you'll come in contact with. The least favorite part about my job, I don't know. I do love nursing. I love the operating room. So I don't really have, sometimes surgeries go longer than normal. That can sometimes be disheartening, but that's what we say. It's surgery. That's how it goes.
Yeah. I'm glad that you like so much of your job. That's fantastic. How about you, Eric? What's the best and not so great part of your job?
I would say the best part is kind of like Andrew was saying, being a part of a team, anticipating. So for my job, like I would have to anticipate if somebody comes and asks for something and we don't have it, is there a replacement? Is there something else they could use? In the pinch, do we have something that might be around the corner, just having a new idea or something that we could work through? So I like being there in the crunch and making the surgery not seem so intense, like, because it's a tense thing, it's a serious thing. Surgery, it could be life or death. So to make it run smoothly, I like to be a part of that. The part I would say, it doesn't bother me, but my least favorite part is just dealing with bloody stuff. Like nobody likes to look at blood and guts. So I would say that.
And that's the thing, when you got started, because some people are like, I can't stand blood. Is that pretty much a job that they should stay away from, or do you get desensitized to it?
So by the time when the instruments get to me, some are bloody. Certain cases are bloodier than others. Let's say that. But it's just like dirty dishes. You know, when you have stuff on your plate and you put it in the dishwater, it just goes away. Same thing. We have a solution that we put into our water. Once we put our dirty instruments down into it, the blood, when you pull it out, the blood's gone. So you see it for like 5 minutes and it's gone.
So it's just not that big a deal. Because I know that
Oh.
even some nurses I talked to, they didn't like blood and guts, but they just get used to it and they have this great job.
Yep. Yep.
How about you, Bridget? What do you think for best and worst part of your job?
For my job personally, I like that I don't get the medical hands-on, but I get the medical side of things. I deal a lot with medical terminology and coding, which I call the medical language, because sometimes it feels like a foreign language with all the terms that they use with everything. And I am dealing with those. I'm just not seeing it. Like I read all about an ACL reconstruction, but I don't see the ACL reconstruction. So I still feel like I get that medical side with everything I'm reading and working with and understanding. I'm just not seeing it. So I like, and I'm dealing with numbers, I'm dealing with money. So I like the number side of things, the business side of things, but still feeling like I'm somewhat involved in the medical side of things.
Yeah. And then anything that you don't like?
For this job specifically, it's a desk. I sit at a desk all day long, so I'm a little more active than that. But luckily working here, I at least have a stand-up desk so I can sit or stand. I know a lot of people that have their desk job, but if they work from home, they'll put a treadmill underneath their desk so they're walking all day long, or you can get like little bike pedals. So you can move. That's just for my job specifically. There's other jobs in this field that you wouldn't be sitting all day long at.
Yeah. Now, is that your apartment you're in? Because you have a pretty sweet view of downtown.
No, this is my executive director's office.
I was gonna say, that's a sweet view there.
Oh, I have a cubby.
People
I
get to
wish.
clean your office already. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I want to let everyone know on the call that, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll make sure to ask the group. I'm wondering, schools are trying to teach young people soft skills, our employability skills, really our life skills, things like teamwork, critical thinking, being punctual. Let's go around and just help me understand what are some really important qualities to be able to do your job well. Andrew, we'll start with you.
I was going to save this for then for any last statements, but I think punctuality and attendance, and I always say my quote is, it takes zero talent to show up to work on time. So the big thing is, you got to be on there in time. Patients that come to surgery, they're not allowed to eat or drink anything for up to 12 hours before surgery. So, if you showed up late and you delayed everybody, you got a lot of hangry patients on your hands. So something you have to consider. Other things at job, when you're in your clinicals, you're ever job shadowing, just remember that they're always watching you. Every time you're at a job, whether you're actually interviewing or just shadowing, or maybe even doing clinicals, you're in a job interview at that point in time. So always consider that.
Yeah, that's really great. And you mentioned earlier that it's just a solid team environment. That teamwork where we have to do projects with other people in high school is translating to the work place, that you have to work with each other, communicate with each other, right? You just mentioned how important Eric's job or Bridget's job is to you as well. So teamwork obviously is really important. How about you, Eric? What kind of qualities make a good sterile processing technician, but what about some of those soft skills that you see?
You just took the word out of my mouth. I would say clear, effective communication. With working with so many people and doing so many different things, you have to be able to communicate what you're trying to do and how much time you need to do it. you know what I mean, with your teammates, your team members, just so there's no confusion. I would say that would be one of our biggest qualities, or one of my biggest qualities that I try to use is communicate effectively. Well, not only with just the people that I work with inside my room, but Andrew and even Bridget if I have to, or any of the sales reps that come in. So yeah, that would be it for me, communication.
Why does sales rep come into the surgery room? Help young people understand what that occupation would be.
Well, sales rep will come in. Let's say you have a broken thumb. They may sell the plates and the screws that you would need to repair your thumb, or if you have a hernia surgery or something, they may use the mesh or the tissue that they will use to repair you. So somebody's always selling something and somebody's always buying something. Like Bridget said, like, it's a business. We also buy, we also sell, we also do more than just what meets the eye.
I want to touch base on a lot of the sales rep, they're in turn like providing a product. They also offer insight into troubleshooting, or any guidance for the physician. They have questions. Hey, what is this material made of? Or this has happened. What can I do next? And those guys kind of help with that, just to touch base with.
Yep. And real quick before you go, so the reps would communicate differently with me than they would with Andrew. For me, it would be, hey, I have this tray. Do you think we can get it ran? Will it be a possibility to have it ready for the surgery that I'm talking about? But then they would go in the room and say, hey, I need to use this machine with this tray. I got this amount of product coming in. So like I said, the communication is different with everybody.
Yeah. Medical sales device, or medical device sales is the terminology, you guys, if that's interesting to you, where you can actually be selling, but in a surgery room. It's kind of a cool job. A lot of young people don't know about. Bridget, what about some personality traits or other soft skills too you want to make sure young people know about?
Just with the teamwork and communication, I feel like I work with almost all the departments here at the same time. Even on the front end of things, a lot of times we can't do certain surgeries here based on the insurance that the patient has. Just because everyone's 65 and older and has Medicare doesn't mean Medicare is going to pay for every surgery that we offer here. So we can't just have anybody and everybody come here. So we kind of vet it out at the beginning, and we do our best to catch everything before it's the day before surgery or while they're here. So that's on the front end. You know, a lot of times if a workman's comp case isn't cleared yet, we can't do the surgery. And sometimes we don't know that until 3 p.m. the day before. So I'm working on that on the back end before surgeries. And then even during surgeries, I've had Andrew come back, or our materials manager come back, and they say, hey, one of the doctors wants to use this tool or, you know, augment. What's the cost that we're going to get for the surgery? And we case cost it to make sure we're even going to make enough on it. Again, the business side of things, as much as we want to help everybody and fix everybody, we can't be losing money on every surgery that we offer. So I'm constantly helping people quote things, price things, make sure the right surgeries are coming here that are cost effective. And yeah, that's a lot on the number side that I deal with a lot too. So numbers, detail, very much attention to detail on my end. You're trying to catch everything before it's too late, for money wise, not for health wise, you know.
Well, I think that might surprise some people, young people, that there's so much of the business in some of this. So yeah, there's a way that I love the way you're talking about your career, because again, there's some people are very oriented to business, but they like health too. So again, these things can all come together, young people. There's so many ways things morph together. We're going to definitely have you guys finish out with a word of wisdom, but it's about a little after 6 now. And if it's a good time, I'd love to have you walk us back into that surgical center. I just want young people to understand, and the counselors and teachers too, that this was one of the perks of the pandemic for us. We would never get to go into this room if it wasn't the pandemic, which forced us to pivot. We usually get to see other parts of OAM, but never inside the operating room. So we're really excited. We got to do this last year too. So who's going to walk us around? How's this going to work?
Me and Andrew are going to go back and go into a room and maybe pull out a couple of sets too and open them up just to show some of the instruments that get used during some of the surgeries here that we do.
Okay. So we'll just walk with you, or I need to entertain the troops while you're getting set up?
No, Lisa's actually setting us an iPad up right now.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a couple minutes and we'll just get everything kind of ready.
Okay. Well, we'll keep talking a little bit.
All right.
So right now, young people and teachers and counselors, most of our hospitals aren't doing the job shadows right now, but I wanted to pitch a resource for you called roadtripnation.com. roadtripnation.com. I'll put that in the chat. Road Trip Nation actually is a PBS TV show. where they follow recent grads where they get to interact with role models in a career of interest. And they now have developed their website to be so much more comprehensive. And this link that I'm showing you right now, or this is, you have to copy and paste that into your browser. It'll ask you a series of what your interests are, and then it will give you different people who have careers that you maybe never thought about that would match your interests. And it's just kind of an extension of what we're doing tonight. What I'm modeling to you is called an informational interview. And it's such an important part of career search that you talk to people who are doing the job you think you might want to do. Doesn't it seem crazy to go off to college or pay tuition and you've never talked to a person who does what you want to do? It's crazy talk. So that's why we have career chats, talk and tours. But something like Road Trip Nation, again, gives you a chance to just meet people through video who are doing jobs that you might know about or have never heard about. Bridget, when you think back to your own, did you do some job shadows early on, did you say, around nursing?
Yeah, I actually did the diagnostic sonography, which is ultrasound. So I thought I wanted to look at babies all day long on a monitor. When I did job shadow, I never saw one baby. People ultrasound a lot more than just babies. And I didn't know that at 16, 17 years old. So that was a good way to see kind of what that's like in the day in the life of an ultrasound tech. I also veered away from it because I was someone scared me away from the physics class at Grand Valley. They said it was very hard. And I was just not in the mindset to be challenged at that time. But it's not something to be afraid of. It's just a good way to get out and see what jobs are really like that you might not know about. I mean, there's so many different nursing. I mean, you can be on a floor with multiple patients, like you said, or you can handle one patient at a time. You don't know that unless you go out and find it and see it.
Yes. So Mercy Health in town does not do job shadows. Metro Health, which just changed to University of Michigan West, in the past, up to COVID, has had a formal job shadow program. So if you go to their website, you can learn about job shadow opportunities, and you really just have to fill out forms, show that you have your immunizations, and they'll help match young people to job shadows. A lot of ways that people find job shadows too is literally cold calling, like calling a department that you think you're interested in, using Google as a tool to figure that out. Obviously putting on social media, if you're looking to go into be a surgical tech, put it out there. Does anyone know a surgical tech? Even calling Muskegon Community College and saying, I'm thinking about this program. Do you have any recent graduates that I could do an informational interview for? Those are the action steps that you can take to do this kind of work. Because again, you don't want to go off paying a ton of money and you've never done your proper investigation. That's why I'm so glad you're here, young people, to learn. That's why you're here. But just an encouragement to continue doing that. When you look at your future, Bridget, what else are you thinking about doing? Obviously, this is a new position for you. Do you have your sights on anything else down the road?
My biggest thing is I wanted to get into the coding of the medical field. You really learn coding is like the language between medical, surgical, and the insurance company, which insurance company kind of rules all of the medical field. So it's a big communication, which, medical coding is where basically after the surgeon does all of his surgery in the OR room, he will go into a microphone and dictate everything that he did. And then we have a transcription company that types all that out into one document or a couple pages worth. And then the coder goes through and reads that whole document, and they find whatever code represents what surgery was performed. Sometimes you'll have a couple pages worth of an op report and you get one code, or you get 5 codes. It just depends on how much was done in that OR room. So I kind of wanted to be the person that dissected that op report and found those codes that were then sent off to the insurance company to get paid for.
That kind of work, Bridget, makes my head go crazy.
Yeah, some people say I don't want to look at op reports all day, and for me, I would love to just dissect. I like to find things. I mean, it's like a puzzle to me.
I love that. I just love that everyone has a personality that fits a job. That's why I'm passionate about the subject of career development.
Yeah.
It sounds like Andrew is ready for us, everyone. So let's just enjoy this tour. And if you have questions, put those in chat. I'll be sure to ask them.
You can do it.
We just need your video, Andrew.
Set up with batteries and an ACL tray.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
No.
I might have muted him.
Try again, Andrew. You might be muted.
Hi, can you see us?
I don't see you.
It's the OEM tour.
It's going out.
There we go. We can see you now.
Hi. Can you see us?
Yes, it does say your bandwidth is low, so we'll see how far this goes, but we definitely can see and hear you.
Okay, yeah. Our main priority is not to get Wi-Fi in the operating room, so it kind of stays in pre-op. But I'm going to kind of start with the tour, starting with the kind of the pre-op area, and we're going to head back to the operating room. So now we're in the pre-op area. We've done our interview questions with the patients. We've established that it's a safe procedure to begin. So now we're going to start heading to the operating room. Do you want to wheel in front of me and I'll just talk? So yeah, as we wheel back, we're still maintaining, talking about questions that we're asking the patients about their health history. Over here, if you'll take a look over here to the left, we have a number of masks and protective PPE is the popular term that we use. Glasses, scrub brushes, and then as we head back down the hall, we're gonna head to operating room number 2. And Eric has set up some nice sterile supplies for us we can really well. And as you enter in the operating room, as you come to the doors, normally there's an operating room table in here with a number of different equipment, but since it's all over, it's kind of scarce. And then over here we have this is a machine that assists the anesthetist in putting the patient to sleep. If you look go down here, Eric supplied some.
Here's our Acl Reconstruction Tray right here. Look at the reamers and things of that nature that will get used on you. Look at this joker right here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a power drill.
Yeah, how long did it take you to learn?
That they will use on you. Power drills.
So this ACL set has a number of different guides in it. I don't know if there's any sports fans out there, but anybody having an ACL surgery in the country probably has been used this set on this very set. This very set was probably used on your favorite football player, hockey player, baseball player. And the instruments are all sterilized. Right now they're not sterile, but I guess to break down what sterility is, it means that there's absolutely zero bacteria on it. So this is the kind of this very minimal setup. I don't know if you guys can see the entire operating room. They're not very large, but this is actually considered, probably would say a bigger operating room than a lot of places. So, yeah, that was kind of the pre-op to the operating room.
What are some of those machines behind you like that? Are there different monitors you have to learn? Are those staffed by certain people, or is that part of your job too?
Yeah.
Well, this is the lights that we will use during surgery.
So they're 100% LED lights, so they're very bright. So in the monitor up here, we have a big screen TV. In the old days, they used to put films on the light boards, but nowadays a lot of stuff is put on via computer onto a big screen. So that's really just all the big screen does. We have this is called a Bovie device. It's electrocautery, so it's used to cauterize any bleeding, less blood. We also have suction devices. It's called a Neptune. It's, you can turn up suction. So like I said, minimize the amount of blood in a wound, and you're able to visualize it better and perform the surgery more efficiently and effective. We have positioner devices for a number of, that's just a whole cart of just different various positioning devices. The majority of the procedures that we do here is what's called an arthroscopy. So when you take your medical terminology class, you understand what that is, but that's basically viewing inside the joint through a minimally invasive camera. So it's almost like a microscope. They're very thin, and they're able to hook it up to a machine, with the machine displays it through a camera. So you don't have to have a giant open wound
to see this procedure, this is actually, thank you. This is a camera. You know, they can do an ACL surgery through 3 to 4 holes that are only that big. So they're very small. So it's minimally invasive, much different than what even surgery was done even 20 years ago. That's that camera. Yeah. So this is the camera. Not much to it, but it kind of just mounts on like this. When I see that, but so the majority of our procedures are arthroscopic, which is great for surgery centers because it's same day surgery, it's minimally invasive. Here, I could show you that one.
Yeah. So that's what it looks like when it comes back to me. Scope everything in.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, this is the machine right here. This is a little bit different than what the ventilators that you keep hearing about these days, but this is a ventilator for anesthetist, and it provides air, gases to keep you asleep, and a number of other medications are available to the anesthetist. This is a cart full of medications in here that's locked away. Any questions or things that people want to touch base on?
Yeah, if you have a question, put it in the chat feature, everyone. We can definitely ask them. How many people are usually in there during a surgery, for example?
So there's always the registered operating room nurse. There's always one of those. There's always a surgeon, obviously. A lot of times the surgeons, depending on the complexity of the case, will have a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner. There are nurse practitioners in surgery. There's always an anesthetist of some sort. So that may be an anesthesiologist assistant, a certified registered nurse anesthetist, or an anesthesiologist.
So at least 5.
At least 5 all the time. Then you have reps that are there for troubleshooting. And then you have the surgical technologist. Sometimes 1 to 2 surgical technologists, depending on the complexity of the case. But we always decrease the amount of, it's not a petting zoo, so we do like to keep as minimum amount of people as possible. More traffic, more bodies, it's always increased infection.
Does it get pretty hot with those lights or that many people in there since it's such a small space?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Does it get pretty warm in there?
I should have said that one of my favorite parts about the job, because it's always around 64 degrees, 365. It's always relatively low humidity and low temperature. The reason for that was the operating rooms have what's called positive air pressure. So it's always pumping air into the room. It's always exchanging all the air in this room. Within probably about 10 minutes, there won't be any of the same oxygen that was in this room than it was 10 minutes ago. So it's always exchanging air. So it's, if there's debris in the air, it's being swept out. And also the positive pressure keeps bacteria from entering in the room, because when you open the door, you'll feel this like kind of a gust of wind that hits you in the face. And that's actually a feature of the operating room. And when the surgeons do wear gowns, and the surgeon type wear gowns, and the lights are always on you, it does get hot. So that's why we pump cold air in the room, because as soon as the air goes out, the room will get very warm very quick, because these rooms are very solid walls. A lot of them are made out of tile. There's not a lot of breathability. There's no windows here, so there's no ventilation. So as soon as the ventilation shuts off, it's very warm very fast. So that's actually HVAC.
You've been giving such a great tour, Andrew. Thank you, both of you and Eric. We appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to show us in there, or like to give us an inside scoop of what it might be like in there?
That
That was great.
That's kind of it. I mean, beyond putting a patient in here, that's it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you guys, do you want to give your word of wisdom here?
We can.
Yeah, go.
I would say, I like to tell the kids, while your parents are paying for everything, take advantage of that. Don't take advantage of your parents, but do what they're asking you. Try to complete your tasks. Bridget, try to complete all your tasks. Go to school and get good grades, because when that's over, when mom and dad stops paying for stuff, it's a different ball game. Speaking from experience.
I love that, Eric. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going back to my words of wisdom, it's always work hard, show up to work on time, and always act like you're in there for an interview.
because you are in there for an interview. Stay positive, sound interested in what's going on, and always just try your hardest, because you will be successful if you work hard, and especially if you have you're in these. I never had this event. I'm lucky to be where I am, but you're in this event and you're learning about healthcare. So take advantage of it and work hard. And I promise you'll get that. You'll get where you want to be.
That's great. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to go back to Bridget, but we really, really appreciate you giving your time to us tonight.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So Bridget, this is your chance to close us out with your word of wisdom.
For me personally, I almost wish I kind of slowed down, and like this class that is offering is really just do your research. I went into college really not knowing what I wanted. I had a lot of things in mind, but it's very overwhelming. They just kind of start throwing you in, sign up for classes, which you have a lot of, gen ed classes to take, and really pay attention to those, see what you like, see what you don't like. But I just felt very rushed, which maybe I did that to myself. I thought I wanted to be done with school in 4 years, and I was good at school. I didn't like school. And college is different than high school. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Not to scare you, but it takes work, and you got to put work into what you want. If you want it bad enough, you can do it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you guys are awesome. I want to give a shout out to Lisa Idema too for helping coordinate this event. We have another one of their main location in May. For those of you that enjoyed this type of activity, it's a talking tour in May, again, at Orthopaedic Associates of Michigan. Bridget, thank you so much. Be sure to thank your colleagues again for me. And again, thank you, Lisa. We appreciate everybody's time tonight. Before I close out, I just wanted to show a resource to some of the young people to help you explore just that little bit further. Because again, we didn't go too far into some of the details about the jobs, because I know you could go to a place like this called onetonline.org. And this is where you can put in the word like surgical tech, and you will come up with a screen like this. It gives you different titles that they're also called, like an operating room technologist or a certified surgical tech. But then it gives you information about the daily work, what kind of tools people use, what kind of wages. Is this a growing job or going away job? So I love ONET Online. I encourage you to do some of that research and then pursue either a conversation over Zoom. Hopefully soon you'll be able to get back in for job shadows, but continue to come to these events, everyone, because that's really our goal. And then, if you have any questions, reach out to me at kristaharman@kentisd.org, and I'll get any questions you need to any of our career mentors tonight. I know they'd be happy to answer anything you might have as a follow-up. And then careerreadiness.kentisd.org. Lots of other programming. We'd love to help you explore more careers. So I'm going to stop our recording right now. So thanks again, Bridget.